Ruth Davidson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the First Minister when she will next meet the Prime Minister.
First Minister.
No current plans.
Ruth Davidson.
Thank you. It seems that we all now agree the Education Secretary this week concluded that our school system is failing too many of our children. We have declining standards in literacy and numeracy and a persistent gap between better and worse off children. And these are simply facts, First Minister. We know that the Education Secretary wants to tackle this, but the truth is we have no idea what she wants to do. So I'd like to ask a very specific question. In her speech earlier this week, the Education Secretary said that she was studying Denmark and Ontario to see what lessons could be learned from their education systems. Both have a rigorous system of testing primary school and younger secondary school children. So does the Scottish Government now support reintroducing standardised testing?
First Minister.
Well, let me deal with that question in a very serious way, because it is a serious question. Firstly, can I just correct Ruth Davidson on one point, because I agree with her that there are improvements required to be made in our education system. I've said that consistently every time this issue has been raised with me, but it is simply not true. If you look, for example, at qualifications gained, to say that standards in our education system are falling. I've got details here of exam passes going back to 2007, covering every decile of the Scottish population. Fewer pupils today are leaving school with no qualifications than was the case in 2007. If you look at hires, more people, as I said to Kezia Dugdale, are leaving school, not just with 1, 2 or 3 hires, but with 4 hires, 5 hires, 6 or more hires. You know, in 2007, just 20% from our most deprived decile left school with at least 1 hire. It's now 33%. That is nowhere near good enough, but it's not true to say that things are not going in the right direction. But there are improvements that require to be made, and that is why we have a serious and substantial programme of work underway, one that I, with the Education Secretary, am overseeing personally. We have established the Attainment Challenge, the £100 million Attainment Fund. That is initially going to work with primary schools in 7 local authority areas focused on literacy, numeracy, health and wellbeing. The Scottish Government is currently working with these local authorities to finalise their improvement plans, and the detail of how these improvement plans will be monitored and measured. We're in the process of appointing attainment advisors in every local authority area. We're investing in the Read, Write, Count campaign. And we are, and this comes substantially to the point Ruth Davidson made to me, we are also working on a new national performance framework, because I don't mind admitting a frustration that I can stand here and I can give detail on the performance of secondary school pupils in terms of exam passes. It's much more difficult to do that in terms of the performance of primary school pupils because of a lack of data. That's something I want to address. I want to address that in a serious, proportionate and well thought out way. That is the work that's underway within the Scottish Government, and Parliament, of course, will be kept fully updated.
Ruth Davidson.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. In among that litany of exam results, what we haven't had is the acknowledgement that the biannual literacy testing this year shows that standards in literacy are down. The biannual numeracy testing last year showed that standards are down. And since the First Minister came to post, we've heard a lot about how much she's listening, how nothing's off the table, that people can bring forward ideas, that they'll look at things. And it's wearing a bit thin, because we actually need some decisions and we need a plan. Audit Scotland told us last year there is no rigorous method in Scotland for assessing children's standards, because some councils do it and some councils don't. Its report states, and if I could quote, Presiding Officer, at a council level there is no consistent approach to tracking and monitoring the progress of pupils from primary 1 to S3. So that means that after 8 years of this government, until your child is 14 years old, you have no clear idea how good their education is in comparison to the rest of the country. And it's no wonder the Scottish Government doesn't know what to do, because it doesn't know what's going on. So we do need that new system of primary testing, exactly like Denmark and exactly like Ontario, so that we can all see which schools need help and which schools are leading the way. Frameworks are fine, but enough is enough. Will you get on and introduce primary testing or not?
First Minister.
Well, firstly, much of what Ruth Davidson said in that question simply repeated what I'd already said in my first answer to her first question. I openly acknowledge that while we do have, through exam passes, a wealth of data about the performance of secondary school pupils, we do not have that same data on primary school pupils. I think she then went on to overstate it by saying that parents have no idea how their children are doing in primary schools. But she's also wrong to say that there's been no acknowledgement of the fact that in the recent SSLN survey, standards on literacy and numeracy had shown a decline. I have openly acknowledged that and said very clearly that is not acceptable, and that is what we are now working to improve. There is a serious and substantial programme of work underway. I'm not, though, going to simply to give Ruth Davidson a yes or a no answer, jump to the decisions before we have properly considered what the right thing to do is. We do need a new national performance framework, but we need to make sure that the data we are collecting and the way in which we are doing that is right, proportionate and sensible. We are considering these issues at the moment, and I look forward, and the Education Secretary look forward to updating Parliament very soon on the direction in which we want to go. You know, I've said repeatedly in this chamber, and I'm going to say again today, I appreciate that the opposition parties will want to be political about this issue. I accept that. I am determined that we make the improvements in our education system that require to be made. So I, with Angela Constance, with the entire government, are going to roll up our sleeves and do the hard work that needs to be done to do right by the young people of Scotland, and I make no apology to anyone for that.